James, thanks for
Afternoon,
thanks for
Oliver.
coming on with me, going for the chat. So we'll just get straight into it. Can you just give
Sure.
us a little bit of your background on you and your career before Impact?
Sure. Yeah. Well, as you can tell, I'm an Irishman, born and bred in Dublin, and lived here all my life before emigrating, like most Irish people, to Australia for a year to pursue rugby and play in a semi-professional capacity over there. And then from there, after living in Australia for a year, I actually moved to London, and I lived in London for just under 8 years. And I actually worked in sports marketing. So I worked on the ad agency side. So my main client for 7 years was Adidas Global. So I kind of developed my experience in working in the sports marketing industry, and kind of started off looking after their global running campaign, so launching of their new products every kind of 6 months. Moved from running onto football, so started off with Chelsea, so looked after all their kit launches every year and other kind of special events they put on, and then moved from that to what they call the five clubs. So end up looking after Chelsea, Liverpool, AC Milan, Real Madrid, and Bayern Munich. So what we would do there is every year they'll have a kit launch, and even though a kit launch only probably takes 2 or 3 days, and there's probably only 2 or 3 weeks of notice around it, it takes almost a full calendar year to get these things planned and in position, as you can imagine, working with football teams and players. So I did that for a period of time, and then after that looked after the retail stuff for Adidas and Olympics in London. And then my final project there was actually looking after rugby. So it was kind of a bit of my dream job. I'm a big rugby fan, played rugby all my life. And when I decided to emigrate back to Ireland, my old global football client rang me up saying, listen, we have rugby. We don't know what to do with it. We have to do this boot launch with Dan Carter. We haven't a clue how to do any of this stuff because we don't know anything about rugby. We know you love it, so will you take on the rugby stuff? So I actually bought the Adidas rugby portfolio back to Ireland with me. So I joined an agency over here and did a boot launch for Adidas rugby. And then over a period of 1.5 years, I worked in Ireland in not only Adidas, but looked after Guinness's sponsorship of the November Internationals and Six Nations. So did a lot of kind of digital activation and kind of retail, in-pub campaigns for them in Ireland and the UK. And then from there, after a period of 8 years, getting to a certain level in my career and a certain pay grade, and I thought, geez, I'll be happy out here. The higher up the ranks I got, the less I enjoyed my job. And that kind of gave me the drive and the impetus to set up Impact.
Oh, right. So it's a fascinating career, really, then, to go from where you were. And you say you got to a high level, etc. How much do you think what you did in terms of the activation and marketing, what you did before, how much do you think that's helped you or hindered you in terms of what you do with Impact?
Yeah, I think you can't beat experience, and the experience I got working with Adidas in terms of how to create a campaign, how to execute it, how to follow up on it, how to develop metrics around it. That was incredibly valuable. Now, when you start up a business, you're a team of one. So even though you all have this vast experience, you know you want to do and how you want to get there, unfortunately, you can't necessarily execute all your skills that you have in terms of bringing a campaign to life. So you kind of got to work with what you can do and the money is available. But it was essential to understanding how to build a brand, because like any great brands in the world, when you look at them versus their competitor, an Adidas versus a Nike versus a Puma versus a Reebok, they sell shoes, they sell running apparel, they sell fashion, they sell casual clothes. Is there any differentiating factors in their product apart from the logo and the brand equity that they've developed? No. I know from firsthand from looking at Nike products versus Adidas products, they're all made in the same type of way. They all have the same buzzwords. So what I really learned from Adidas is how to how to develop a brand identity and really focus on that. And obviously, the quality of the product is essential, but that will come across anyway as you sell to customers. But I suppose, the biggest takeaway I took from it all, from working with Adidas on a global perspective. So I worked with their German head office in Herzogenaurach and worked on these global campaigns. I suppose as an Irishman, being from a smaller country and you're based in London, you're looking at these global campaigns like, oh my God, they must have the most clever people in the world and these amazing ideas and blah, 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 blah. So to a certain point they did, but a lot of the time they didn't. What they had was experience. So they knew how to do it and they had the money to do it. And what I was able to do over that 8-year period was pull the information that I learned from working with Adidas and the ad agencies I worked in to use those experiences to develop my own brand. And the kind of the final output I took from all this was kind of the saying is, I don't think local, I think global. So when I set up this company, my ambition and my vision has always been to be a global brand. Now, that's hard to believe when you're sitting in a basement, trimming some old gum shields and you're freezing cold, you've got no heating and you're a team of one. But I think that's been learning that from Adidas and learning that everything has an infancy. Everyone has a starting point and it has to begin somewhere to get somewhere. And you just have to have that commitment to stay that journey. So that was kind of the big key takeaways from working with Adidas.
And so we've touched on the name Impact, and you said you're building or you built Impact as a brand. When did you have the idea? When did that first start? Were you on your own, and what was the inspiration for that when it came about?
Yeah, so as I kind of alluded to, I played rugby all my life, and I went to rugby playing school here in Ireland, and it was a good rugby playing school, and I was okay at rugby, as in I could hold my own at a decent level, and you all have aspirations of being professional, all that kind of stuff, but I was never necessarily good enough, to be honest. I made the under 21 levels and stuff like that in Leinster, but I got injured. But like everyone has their sob story, but to be honest, I wouldn't have been good enough to make it anyway. I realised that. But I love playing rugby, and that allowed me to go to Australia and experience there where I had played for a club and they gave me a job and they paid me cash and it was great. And because I was playing rugby, when I actually moved back to London, I didn't take rugby seriously anymore. As kind of, I suppose, playing as I'd call it, nicotine 15, where you play with some guys who were like me at probably one stage semi-decent, but loved the beers and cigarettes, so we kind of went down that route. But while I was playing there, I came across Opro. So obviously Opro would be, anyone in the school system, the club system, the UK, they're an incumbent supplier of custom fit gum shields to schools and clubs in the UK. And I thought it was a great idea, methodology that they use of going directly to schools and clubs with the dentist putting impressions and returning a custom fit gum shield in a 2 or 3 week period later. So when I moved back to Ireland and I kind of had reached, let's say, the zenith of my advertising career, where I had enough, I had this idea in the back of my mind. I thought, well, Opro have this great business model over here. There's nothing like that in Ireland. And I thought, well, again, from my Adidas experience and knowing that with time and effort, anything is feasible, I thought, well, I could do that in Ireland. So, being honest, I very much took the Opro model of how they did things, going directly to schools and clubs, etc. And that's what I did in Ireland. I implemented that. I hired dentists and dental technicians part-time to go to schools and clubs and put impressions and bring it back to our small dental lab we had at the time and create the gum shields using traditional methods. But what really helped me, I think, from setting up this business and migrating from traditional manufacturing techniques to 3D printing was the fact that I wasn't a dentist. So when I looked at this process of how Opro make their gum shields and I started adopting that process, it's very manually intensive. It's very material intensive. It's slow. It can be very inaccurate, even though you are taking a custom fit impression. You have double captures. You have lack of detail, etc., etc. So when I looked at this, I thought there must be a better way to create this product, and I thought of it as a user first, because I was still playing rugby, as I said, nicotine 15 level at this time in Ireland. I thought, well, I'm the perfect guinea pig. I know what's a good product for me, because if I like it, other people like it, because I've spent 25 years playing rugby and I know what does and doesn't work. And from that gave me the impetus to look at a different manufacturing technique. And that's where I started investigating 3D printing and 3D printing techniques to create a alternative solution for a better product. So not only a better customer experience, but a better production process, but also a much better product in terms of it offers more absorption, offers better fit, it offers smaller in the mouth, it's lighter in the mouth. We have variants of it, so we always have a digital record of your teeth, so you can always reorder one very easily. So I suppose what I've looked to do is, Opro was a base model, but I've taken that and moved it on to the next stage. So, whereas this kind of manufacturing technique is very much what I call an analog technique, I've looked to move it fully digital. So, like anything in this world, everything's going digital. So you have books that have gone from books to Amazon to your Kindle. You've got music that's gone from record players to CDs to Spotify. That's the world of these manufacturing techniques, and that's where I look to take the human interaction and the human error out of the process and the product development and the product production, because that's where we can really gain some big advantages in developing the product and having a better product for the customer. And I've always thought about the customer first, because I've always been the first customer.
Yeah. So I see. So you used Opro's model and you've improved on it, obviously in your opinion. So you talk about the 3D scanning process, how you do that. So what, just as a sort of small step-by-step guide in terms of when you go into places, how does that actually work, the 3D scanning process?
Sure. Yeah. It's again, one of the big things here is having a much better customer experience. So when you're dealing with schools and clubs, and in particular children, the school or club, time is very limited, and it's very important to them, and they have very little time to do this. And also when you're dealing with a lot of kids, you need to make it as easy as possible for them to get a custom-fit gum shield. So as I say, Opro have their traditional methods of taking putty impressions and etc. What we now do is our process is we actually use what's called an intraoral scanner. So it's basically like a big electric toothbrush. So when we go to a school or a club, 100, 150 kids, however we're scanning, what we do is actually take a digital scan of their mouth. So that takes between 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes. What it does is create a 3D model of their mouth. And then from that, we then would actually process that file. So we've developed our own patent pending software that allows us to take that scan of an individual's mouth and then process through the software to spit out a 3D printable file, which we have 12 3D printers in our office here in Dublin. And what it does is we then send that file to print, and using a 3D printing material that we developed over a 2-year period and have had independently tested, etc., we then 3D print that person's gum shield, and it takes about an hour to an hour and a half to 3D print the gum shield. And then what we do is, once we've collated all the gum shields together, we post it back to the school. So from interacting with, let's say, a head of sport or a head of rugby or whoever it may be, in terms of interaction, the process is a lot easier for them because we digitize everything. So when it comes to booking a day, an event, and sending stuff out to parents, we have registration pages that they can just send the link out. Everything comes directly through us. We look after all the payment, all the timings, etc., and we just coordinate with them the day and time they want to do it with. And then on the day itself, we have a much cleaner, more streamlined process, a lot less invasive process as well, which is hugely important because we scan from kids of age 7 up to 18. But as you can imagine, the younger kids can have issues using the older traditional methods of putty and mouth and big trays and stuff, and gagging and puking, which has happened to me in my time. I've seen it, but that's all gone with their new process. So that's in essence how our kind of tool chain and process works versus the older model. So it's a lot more streamlined, a lot less invasive, a lot quicker, a lot more accurate.
Yeah, no, I see. And so, yeah, and you said as well then, so apart from the 3D process, it's lighter, etc., but the protection wise, is it 20% more protection than other gum shields that was listed?
Yeah, it's actually more depending which type of gum shield, but we use 20% because that's our minimum impact absorption versus other gum shields. So what we actually did is spent over €15,000 getting it independently tested with there's a university here based in Ireland called AIT, which is known for its testing protocols. It works all the big pharma industries here in Ireland, global pharma companies and global engineering companies, and they do bespoke projects like this. So they actually use the American Dental Association standards to compare the impact absorption of our gum shield versus other custom fit gum shields from dentists, custom fit gum shields from particular rivals in the UK. I won't say the name, but everyone knows who they are, and versus shop bought, boil and bite ones. And in comparison versus the highest end protection product from one of our main rivals, who charge £120 almost for this gum shield, our gum shield for their highest protection level offered up to 20% more impact absorption than their best in class gum shield. That was versus our £60 gum shield. So you're paying £120 for their highest end, and you're actually losing out 20% impact absorption. And then when you compare it to other products in the category, it's up to as far as 29% impact absorption. And we're constantly, this is the thing, we're constantly updating and upgrading our materials and our testing methods and our forms of 3D printing to increase that impact absorption. So again, we're going through another round of independent testing to see, because our techniques have improved so dramatically over the 3 years that we've been 3D printing, we think there's actually more impact absorption to be had now in terms of better protection versus other rival products. So we're doing another round of testing at the moment, actually based in the UK, with a company who are looking into that as well. So hopefully in the next kind of 2 months, COVID dependent, we'll have a new set of results that have even better margins of improvement for impact absorption. But the other key thing with the product as well is it's actually a lot smaller in your mouth. So again, probably, for any people who play sports and wearing a custom fit gum shield, our standard gum shield is up to 51% smaller in the mouth versus a traditional custom fit gum shield, and it's up to 47% lighter. So a lot of time our customers get this gum shield, it's like, oh my God, it's so small and so light, and they pop it in and it literally clicks into place. They're like, they can't believe this. It's like, this is what I spent the past 5.5 years developing. This is what I've been testing. I've been, this came from the genesis of me wanting the best gum shield possible in the market, and that's what's happened, and that's what's happening. We're always constantly evolving, and even like our elite gum shield that's worn by the professional rugby players that we work with, that has even a smaller footprint in the mouth, because we can actually contour the back of the gum shield to the inside of the teeth, so it creates a bigger space for the tongue to sit in, which allows for easier speech and talking, communicating during a game, and breathability. So we're constantly trying to improve our products. We never rest on our laurels, I suppose.
Yeah, and so it makes life easier for directors of sport, schools, that type of thing. You touched upon professional sport. Where is it more specifically that it's being used, or Impact's being used in professional sport? In rugby, I imagine. But
yeah. Well, let's just say for Ireland, for instance, within Ireland, I'm sure if people are into rugby, they know Leinster Rugby. So Leinster Rugby are considered one of the best clubs in the world when they don't lose to Saracens, but we won't talk about that one. But we are the official suppliers to Leinster Rugby. So we actually supply their men's, women's and academy teams. We're also the official suppliers to RPI, which is Rugby Players Ireland. So the equivalent would be the English Players Association in the UK for rugby. So we actually officially supply all 4 professional teams in Ireland. So Munster, Ulster, Connacht and Leinster. Now, we only have official sponsorship with Leinster to use their identity, but actually we supply all 4 provinces. And out of the professional playing population in Ireland, we supply about 87% of the professional playing population. We also supply the women's and men's Ireland Sevens team, and we also supply a lot of the professional hockey players as well in the Irish team. And then likewise in the UK, we have agreements in place and official suppliers to the likes of Loughborough and Edinburgh University. So these top end echelon sports universities and the likes are wearing our product, and the feedback and the reviews we get from them are excellent. So
it's really interesting, the fact that you've the partnership with Irish Rugby itself. How did that come about?
Yeah, so it's one of those things where, because I played rugby growing up, and a lot of players at the time were in Leinster setup, I would have played against and known them and would be friendly with them. And one or two of my best mates at the time were still professional players with Leinster. When I was developing this product, I just said, listen, guys, I have this product. Will you try it out? And if anyone knows, professional players in any sports are particularly picky. They won't, especially when it comes to performance and how it can affect their game. You could have the best product in the world and you could pay them 10 grand, but if they don't like the quality of product, and they won't wear it. If they feel it's going to affect performance, they won't wear it. So I literally approached a couple of guys on the Leinster team at the time, because we're based down the road from Leinster. I said to the guys, like, listen, I have this gum shield. Try it out. Give me your feedback. If you like it, great. If you don't, let me know. Let me know how I can improve it. And what happened was, I started off with one or two individual players, the likes of a Fergus McFadden or Devon Toner, who were Irish players through and through in Leinster. And what happened, it organically spread that, Fergus or Deb can say, lads, I'm wearing this gum shield from James Murph up the road. And it's great. It's like I can talk a lot better. It's a lot better fit. He's like, check it out. So what actually happened was, the players started coming to me. So they'd ring me up and say, any chance I can get a gum shield off you, because of the gum shield? And I was like, yeah, of course. And what happened is, eventually, that, as of kind of 18 months ago, we had pretty much the whole Leinster squad wearing a gum shield. And then they had a sponsorship, and I kind of knew they had a sponsorship, and I said, listen, Shane, the lads are all wearing our gum shields. I think there could be an opportunity here to form a partnership. And he's like, okay, let me do research. When he came back, it's like, Jesus, I didn't really realize, like, at the time, 70 out of 100 people in the men's, women's academy were wearing a gum shield. It's like, absolutely. I think, the response, the feedback I got from the professional guys, a range of product has been amazing. So I think there's a perfect opportunity there. So that kind of created the Leinster opportunity, and off the back of that as well, within that, almost kind of concurrently, I met with the head of the RPI, a former professional rugby player as well, a guy called Simon Coe, who I used to play against as well at the odd time. I made him aware of a product, and he goes, it's great, can we try it out with some academy players in the provinces? And they did, and they loved it. And then from there, they kind of introduced us directly into the professional setups in Ulster, Munster, and Connacht. And we went in and did scanning days for the players, and yeah, it's grown like that. So it's all grown. Basically, it's all happened off the quality of the product. So I didn't pay a penny for any of this. So I never paid anyone to endorse or market the product or put it in players' mouths. It's all based on the quality of product and players actually wanting to wear it, and word of mouth amongst them.
Yeah, it's organically grown word of mouth, as you say. Must be a nice feeling. That. So we move away slightly, but more focus on yourself in terms of business and as an entrepreneur. What would you say is the biggest challenge you faced during the coronavirus pandemic as a business owner?
Ooh, staying alive. So like anyone, it's just one of those situations where, I've been through a lot of ups and downs in my 7-year journey. So I set this company up 7 years ago. We only started 3D printing 3 years ago, but we were developing before that while we were doing the traditional manufacturing techniques. But on that journey, there's been a lot of ups and downs. There's been a lot of times where looking at the bank account is like, I don't have any money here, or there's days where I sold my car 4 years ago because I needed some money for the business. Still haven't bought a car since. There was days where, I didn't have anything, and you're living as a business off scraps. So it was a funny scenario that when COVID came along, we actually had some money in the bank. And even though we couldn't sell for 4 or 5 months, there was also government supports there, which were excellent and helped with wage subsidy schemes and the likes. But actually, from my position, I've always had, tough times or difficult situations in the journey of this business. And this was just another hurdle that I needed to overcome. And even though we couldn't sell during a 3 or 4 month period, what we did do is, because we had these 3D printers that we have in our office, we actually started doing some pro bono work and making some 3D printed, basically hands-free door handles that we supplied free of charge to dentists and doctors and nursing homes. So when opening doors, you could use your arm. So what I did over that period of time, even though we couldn't sell our gum shields, we as a team adapted our printers and gave away these free products to kind of help in some way during the Corona pandemic. But it was just a matter of case of being prudent with and frugal, I suppose, with my money, and just kind of knowing that every cloud has a silver lining, and I actually have been in worse situations. Obviously, it's not ideal that you can't sell, you can't generate revenue, but as I said, there was some money in the bank there, and there was government support, and I've been in worse situations, which sounds weird, but that was the case.
Yeah, and from what I can see, by no means an expert at all, but when you're looking at the Irish technology industry as it is now, it just seems to be booming. Have you got sort of any ideas as why that is specifically now or recently?
Yeah, I do. Well, one of them was tax breaks for foreign direct investments. So that's always been a capital gains tax, or whatever tax it is, corporation tax. Sorry, for Ireland has always been very low to encourage foreign direct investment. But in saying that, you can have all these great tax benefits, but if you don't have an existing skilled workforce, a diligent workforce, a hard-working workforce, these companies wouldn't come here. So I think the Irish person in general has a lot of, I think, grit and dirt, a lot of hard work ethic about them. There's a reason why there's, the railroads and the roads in London and the UK were built in the 50s by Irish people. It's a job that a lot of people don't want to do, but we were like, shit, we need money, we need to work hard, so we're going to do this. And I think as a country, we progressed. We've first of all gone from, the local paddy drinking too many pints to kind of going, no, hang on a second, we want to make our mark in society here. And we have developed an excellent education system, which has allowed us to, since the 1950s, develop a world-class education system, one of the best in the world, and churn out very highly skilled English-speaking workforce who have experience and abilities to work in technology, engineering, pharma. And I think, from the mid-1990s, when probably getting very technical into this, but the IDA, Irish Development Authority, started reaching out to these foreign tech companies and saying, listen, we have this great skilled workforce, we have fairly cheap labor, we have great availability of land and office space. So I think that was a driving force for companies to come to Ireland. Originally it was pharma companies, and the likes of Apple came in the late 70s then, when Steve Jobs was kind of coming to his zenith before getting fired again. That allowed these companies to come here, and I think it's been a gradual evolution since then. So the older tech companies like your IBMs, your Apples, and your big pharma companies like Pfizer, etc., saw the skilled, hardworking workforce and cheap labor at the time. And then it's kind of, since the mid-90s, when the foreign direct investment and the IDA have really pushed back to the American-based tech companies, that we've had the likes of your Facebooks, your Googles, your LinkedIns, your Spotify's, all this set up the European headquarters here, because first of all, we're going to be still part of the European Union, which helps a lot, but we have the skilled workforce and we have this available capital for people to do a really good job for these companies. So yeah. I think it's our attitude, our education, our our tax incentives.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what allowed us to grow as a tech hub.
And if I were, for example, someone with an idea, a good idea like Impact, I was starting up in the tech industry. What advice would you give me, or would you give an entrepreneur who was starting out in the industry?
Yeah, it's funny. I've done a couple of talks before, and these kind of things like, what pearls of wisdom can you give to someone starting up in business? What I would say is, no piece of advice is right for every individual. There's no one silver bullet that will be a cure-all for all entrepreneurs. I think every individual will have things that they need to focus on to make their business great. What I would say, in saying all that, from my own experience, what I've realized is there's a couple of things. My own experience, if people are going to say what advice would you give yourself again if I start open, and maybe they can take something of that, is understand the market. There's a product for the market, but there's a market for the product. It's just understanding, doing the research and kind of saying, right, well, I have this great idea, but is there a market fit there? Is a market opportunity there? Which is one thing. Also have which I didn't do, and you only get with experience, is have a defendable position. So obviously my Adidas experience is like brand, develop a brand, and that's brilliant starting off with and getting going. But then what you need to, especially in the technology side, is you need to have a defendable position, something that's unique to you, and that's what we did with 3D printing, and be the first company in the world to do that. So I would say to anybody, entrepreneurs, what's your USP? What is genuinely unique to you and you only, and not other companies can copy or imitate? And I suppose the last piece of advice is, again to myself, is just do it. There's I don't mean like the Nike, the cheesy version.
You know, say Adidas man saying,
yeah. Well, impossible is nothing. Whatever cheesy just line you want to use. But I suppose the thing I mean to say is that there's never going to be a perfect time. There's never going to be the right time. You're never going to have all your ducks in a row and the finances or the product or blah 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 blah. I think it's a case of the more you think about it, the less you're likely to do it. I literally just quit one day. I just said I had enough of this. I handed my resignation and I used my life savings I kind of had this seed of an idea. Had I done, all the due diligence? No, but what the most important thing was getting going, because if you analyze this too much and you think about it too much, you'll never get anywhere. You just have to roll up the sleeves and get stuck in.
Right. So we'll finish off on a couple of I won't say quick fire questions, but a couple of questions.
Sure.
So for you I imagine it's pretty full on to switch off from your work. How do you manage if you do?
Yeah, it's funny. You're always pretty much thinking about work. Like even if you're not working, there's little seeds and things you're looking at. But I think having a work-life balance is incredibly important. Like I think it's a lot of bullshit. All these guys like, I do 120 hours a week and I never stop. I'm always keep on keeping on. All this kind of crap. A lot of American people are into that stuff. That's not real life. You can't sustain that. And I think the people who are 120 hours a week, it's like, well, fair play to you, well done, but also, Jesus, you're not very good at managing your time, and you obviously don't have the team around you support, and they'll give all excuses on building a global brand, blah blah. You can build a global brand, but you can also do it the right way and take your time doing it. So first of all, I think it is very important to do switch off, and even though it is kind of bubbly in the background, but what I would do is, I love sports. I love watching rugby. I love hanging out with my mates. I love playing golf, hanging out with our dog and my fiance, and just kind of walking and just trying to distract yourself from not thinking about work all the time. But I have a big love for sport, and since I don't play rugby anymore, I try to play as much golf as I can, which not that often at the moment.
And so you've mentioned you don't play anymore. You've mentioned Leinster quite a lot when you played there. Is there a sports team that you support, or that are your team, and is there any sort of reason why?
Yeah. So, well, from a rugby perspective, it's Leinster. I was born and raised in Dublin, Leinster, which is the kind of, and I went to a school that is kind of considered one of the main feeder schools for Leinster, and I was involved in a little bit in the setup. As I said, a little bit, I wasn't good enough, but from a rugby perspective, yeah, absolutely, I love my rugby in general. So it's Leinster and Ireland, but I just appreciate teams that excel in their given sport. And I follow American football and golf and football. So, but if there's one team, if you say I kind of check the score on religiously, it would be it'd be Leinster, and to a little extent in football, I'd still follow United a little bit, not as much as I used to passionately when I was younger, but such
That's
as life.
Shame. That's a shame.
Yeah.
I was
Still love United.
Man United.
That's a great team. Well, they're getting there.
Yeah. Have you got a favorite? Who is your favorite athlete of all time then, and why?
Oh yeah, jeez. Actually, this is a question that stumped me. There is kind of the people like your people always say Muhammad Ali or Jack Nicklaus and stuff like that, and I get that, but they're not necessarily. Well, they weren't my era, so I wasn't alive when they were at their zenith and doing amazing things. I think probably if to refer to someone probably would be someone like Jonah Lomu, just because again growing up playing rugby and stuff, I was a tight head prop wanting to be number 8, wanting to be a winger, but he genuinely changed the face of rugby globally. He made it a global sport, and like Tiger did, well, Arnold and Jack in their time in golf, and Tiger really, and Jordan in basketball. Jordan's another amazing athlete that I admire, but I didn't follow it religiously when I was younger. Someone like Jonah Lomu, who was this 6'4", 18.5 stone Goliath of a man who could sprint faster than anyone in his team. I just remember '95 World Cup, him running over my cat, and you wouldn't believe what kind of joy that gave to an Irish man seeing an English team getting hammered. And Jonah Lomu, I think he scored 4 tries in that match or whatever. But my cat getting steamrolled by Jonah Lomu, I think, yeah, he'd probably be the athlete I'd admire most.
And in terms of a person, doesn't necessarily have to be an athlete. Who's the most impressive or inspiring person that you've met through your work, or just personally?
Yeah, this is an easy one for me. Actually, it's my father. To be honest, he's a self-made businessman. He's done this journey that I went on. He started off as a sparky electrician when he's younger, and he had a love and passion for music, and was in a band or two, and started doing music nights and stuff like that. And from that, he actually ended up running the events, and then owning the bar, and then owning bars, and then going to nightclubs, and then roller discos, and then in hotels. So he built himself up from this 20-year-old sparky to a man who became pretty successful off his own back, or very successful off his own back. And he was the inspiration to me. And I remember when I went to him, because like most dads, they're a man of few words, I'd imagine. And I think if you're at the time, as I said, I had a good job and I was well paid, and I went to him. I was like, Dad, I think I'm chucking this all in and start my own business. And I thought if you'd kind of go, you feckin' Egypt, don't do that. You got a great life ahead of you. And he said, James, I get it, I understand it, and I think if you don't give it a go, you'll always wonder what if. So seeing his work ethic and how he grew his business growing up, and how he always made time for us. So even though he was working morning and night times, he was always there for breakfast, he was there for lunch, he was there for dinner. But he is by far my biggest inspiration in terms of how to I suppose conduct yourself in life and business.
Definitely. And to finish off then, for you and Impact, for the future, what is the, have you got any plans going forward for Impact, or any great visions of what you'd like to be doing?
Oh yeah, as I think I kind of said earlier on, I don't think local, I think global. I think this business has been going 7 years, and we've only been 3D printing 3.5 years, but I still think we're in our genesis. I still think we have a long way to go, and I think we really have other potential products in the pipeline that we'd like to bring to market. But what I'm very conscious of is, and what I want to make sure of, is that Gumshields is probably seen as a niche product, but I want to own that niche, because if you own the niche, then you become best in your field at what you do, and then from there it gives you the opportunity to expand into other products ranges within that, using 3D printing techniques. But for the short term, it's to keep on evolving the product to expand our market presence in the UK. We're already in Holland and Belgium, and we're launching in New Zealand in January, New Zealand, Australia in January. But from my perspective, I think another big opportunity and kind of the big market that I'd like to eventually get to, one of the bigger markets, is America, because I do love American football, and I do love American sports in general. Like as I said, like your wrestling and basketball and likes, where they all wear mouth guards. And I think there's a great opportunity to work high schools, college teams, and professional teams
Yeah,
to wear a product and evolve the product.
Yeah, the size of the market over there it's unbelievable, the opportunity.
Yeah, it really is. It's a different level altogether, you know. But yeah, I see us expanding the product in different territories, constantly evolving it, and then once we've earned the right to expand to other products, then using 3D printing techniques and again changing how those industry execute and manufacture these products, we will look to do that. Right.
Well, listen, James, thanks a lot for finding the time to have a chat, and
no
yeah, I'll speak to you again soon.
Yeah, great.
Cheers, mate.
Thank you. Cheers.